Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about one of the most profound and transformative principles that can shape your life, beginning with God's blessing. There is a power in starting with God's favor, and it is that favor that lays the foundation for your success, peace, and impact in this world. Let us dive into this truth with the depth and clarity it deserves. Every day we are given is an opportunity to step into our destiny, to fulfill our purpose. But I want you to understand that purpose does not begin with you. It begins with God. God, in His infinite wisdom, has designed each of us for greatness. Before you make a decision, before you take a step, before you plan your day, you must first align yourself with the divine purpose that God has set for you. Your life is not an accident, it is a design. When you begin with God, you are tapping into that design, that divine order that guarantees success. Why should we begin with God's blessing? Because God's blessing is the key to unlocking all the doors that stand in front of you. It is the empowerment to do things that would be impossible on your own. We have been taught that success is the result of hard work and effort, and while that is true, we must first understand that nothing we do can bear fruit without God's blessing. It is God's blessing that accelerates your progress, makes your labor fruitful, and protects you from failure. When you begin with His blessing, everything you touch is touched by divine favor. Now, to begin with God's blessing requires faith. You must trust that God is leading you and that He will provide everything you need. Faith is not a passive belief, it is an active trust in God's plan for your life. It means stepping out even when you don't see the full picture. When you begin your day, begin your actions, begin your journey with the belief that God is already ahead of you, preparing the way. Faith is the fuel that propels you forward. Without it, even the greatest plans fall short. But with it, mountains can be moved. God has already established order in the universe, and this order flows through every area of our lives. From the moment you wake up, the moment you make a decision, the moment you act, you must recognize that God has set things in motion before you. When you begin with God's blessing, you are not starting from scratch. You are aligning yourself with a cosmic plan that will carry you to places you could never imagine. There is a natural flow to life when you begin with God's blessing. It is an order that is unshakable. The necessity of obedience. There is a key to receiving God's blessing, and that key is obedience. You cannot separate God's blessing from His will. To begin with God's blessing means that you are also aligning yourself with His commands. It means that you will choose His way over your own, His plans over your ambitions. Obedience is not a burden, it is a privilege. When you obey, you open the door to greater blessings than you could ever comprehend. God's way always leads to peace, success, and fulfillment. 6. The ripple effect of starting with God's blessing. Lastly, when you begin with God's blessing, you are not just blessing yourself, you are blessing everyone around you. You become a vessel of His love, His peace, and His wisdom. Your actions, your words, your life all become a reflection of the divine blessing you've received. As you prosper, those around you prosper. As you walk in peace, you bring peace to others. The blessing of God in your life has a ripple effect that impacts generations to come. Beginning with God's blessing is not just a religious practice, it is a powerful principle that ensures your success and fulfillment in life. Your journey will be challenging, but with God's blessing, you will overcome every obstacle, achieve every goal, and live a life of significance. Remember, purpose, faith, obedience, and divine order are all connected to the blessing of God. So as you rise each day, begin with His blessing and watch how He takes your life from glory to glory. May God's favor be upon you as you begin your journey today, and may His blessings lead you into your divine destiny. Starting with purpose is one of the most transformative and powerful actions you can take in life. It goes beyond merely setting goals or creating plans. It is about understanding that every day, every moment, is an opportunity to align yourself with something greater than yourself, with something greater than yourself. It's the realization that your life is not an accident, but a design, a carefully crafted plan by a creator who has invested intention into every step of your journey. When you start with purpose, you are tapping into a wellspring of potential that goes beyond your own abilities and understanding. The key to starting with purpose lies in recognizing that everything you do has meaning. Life is not a series of random events or tasks to check off a list. Instead, it is a continuous unfolding of opportunities to live out your divine calling. Each day you wake up is a chance to fulfill a specific purpose. You were born with a unique gift and a specific mission on this earth, and every action you take should reflect that purpose. Without purpose, we wander aimlessly, uncertain of our direction and unsure of our next move. But when we start with purpose, we set a course, a foundation upon which everything else is built. Purpose gives meaning to the work we do, the relationships we nurture, and the challenges we face. Without it, we may be tempted to chase after fleeting desires or get lost in distractions that take us off track. But with purpose, even the most mundane tasks take on significance because they are connected to a larger vision. It is this larger vision, grounded in a divine plan, that provides direction, clarity, and focus. Purpose also provides the strength to overcome adversity. When obstacles come your way, and you'll be equipped to navigate through them, because your purpose is a driving force that keeps you moving forward. It fuels your determination, reminding you that you were designed for something greater than the struggle in front of you. Purpose brings clarity to your decisions, allowing you to choose paths that align with your true calling rather than being swayed by external pressures or momentary desires. When you start with purpose, you not only make better decisions, but also inspire others to do the same. People are drawn to those who have a clear sense of direction, who live their lives with intention. Your purpose will impact the lives of others, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond you. Whether it's through your work, your words, or the way you live, starting with purpose sets the stage for a life that leaves a lasting impact. When you begin each day with purpose, you are inviting divine guidance into every area of your life. You are stepping into a flow that aligns your actions with the greater plan God has designed for you. Purpose helps you avoid distractions and helps you stay focused on the things that truly matter. It's the foundation on which you build everything else. Starting with purpose is not just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most with intention, with passion, and with a commitment to fulfilling your unique calling. The significance of God's blessing is profound and far-reaching, touching every area of our lives in ways that we often cannot fully comprehend. God's blessing is not merely a favor or a gift, it is the very empowerment that allows us to succeed, thrive, and live in alignment with His will. It is the divine endorsement of our efforts, a supernatural enablement that ensures our labor is not in vain. When God blesses us, He infuses our work, our relationships, and our aspirations with His grace and favor, elevating them to a level of success and fulfillment that goes beyond our own capabilities. God's blessing is what gives life its true meaning and purpose. It is what transforms ordinary tasks into significant endeavors. Without God's blessing, even our most determined efforts can feel empty or unproductive. We may work tirelessly, yet still find ourselves frustrated, lacking the sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing we are walking in alignment with God's will. His blessing, however, acts as a divine catalyst that turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. It is through His blessing that what we do bears lasting fruit, and what we sow produces an abundance far greater than we could have achieved on our own. This blessing also provides protection and guidance. In a world that is filled with uncertainty, challenges, and dangers, God's blessing acts as a shield over us. It protects us from harm, keeps us from going astray, and guides our steps toward His perfect plan. It ensures that even in difficult times, we are not alone. With His blessing, we walk in confidence, knowing that God is with us, overseeing our journey and providing us with everything we need to overcome obstacles. Moreover, God's blessing extends beyond just material success. While His blessing can certainly manifest in tangible ways like financial provision, health, or opportunities, it goes much deeper than that. It touches the intangible aspects of life, such as peace, joy, wisdom, and contentment. These are the true markers of a blessed life. When we experience God's blessing, we are not just given external resources, we are transformed inwardly. We gain the strength to face trials with resilience, the wisdom to make better decisions, and the peace that comes from knowing that our lives are being guided by the hand of a loving and faithful God. God's blessing is also foundational to our relationships. When we receive His blessing, We are empowered to love others as He has loved us. Our interactions are no longer driven by selfish motives, but by the desire to serve, uplift, and encourage those around us. The blessing of God enables us to be a blessing to others. It transforms our capacity to give, to forgive, and to show kindness, creating a ripple effect that impacts not only our own lives, but also the lives of those we encounter. Furthermore, the blessing of God is a source of hope. It reminds us that no matter what challenges we may face, God's favor is upon us, and He is working all things together for our good. It gives us the confidence to step into new opportunities, knowing that we are not walking alone, but with the full support and provision of God. His blessing is a constant reminder that we are part of a greater plan, and that He will supply all that we need to fulfill our purpose. In essence, the significance of God's blessing is not confined to a single moment or a particular area of our lives. It is a continuous flow that sustains us, strengthens us, and empowers us to live a life that reflects His goodness and grace. God's blessing is the source of all true success, the foundation for peace and joy, and the key to making a lasting impact in the world. When we live under God's blessing, we are not simply existing, we are thriving, growing, and becoming all that He has created us to be. Faith plays a central and transformative role in every journey we embark on, shaping the course of our lives and empowering us to move forward, even when the path is unclear or filled with obstacles. Faith is not merely a passive belief or an abstract concept. It is an active, dynamic force that propels us toward our purpose. It is the trust we place in God's character, in His promises, and in His ability to bring to pass what He has spoken over our lives. Faith allows us to take bold steps, to move forward with confidence, and to overcome fear and doubt that might otherwise paralyze us. When we walk by faith, we acknowledge that we are not dependent on our own strength, wisdom, or resources. Instead, we place our trust in something far greater, the power and provision of God. Faith opens our hearts and minds to the understanding that even when we cannot see the full picture or know the outcome, God is still in control. It is this trust that allows us to face the unknown with courage and conviction, knowing that God's guidance is always available, even in the most uncertain of circumstances. Faith, therefore, becomes the compass that directs us through the storms of life, leading us to the places we are meant to go, regardless of the challenges we encounter along the way. A life of faith is also one of expectation. When we have faith in God, we live with the expectation that He will fulfill His promises to us. We anticipate His intervention in our lives and trust that He will provide exactly what we need at the right time. Faith allows us to see beyond our current circumstances and envision the future through God's eyes. It gives us the ability to hold on to hope, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. With faith, we refuse to be limited by what we see in the natural realm, and we begin to align our expectations with the supernatural possibilities that God has for us. Furthermore, faith empowers us to persevere in the face of adversity. There will be times when the road ahead appears daunting, when challenges seem insurmountable, and when the temptation to quit is overwhelming. It is in these moments that faith becomes our anchor, holding us steady and giving us the strength to keep moving forward. Faith is not the absence of difficulty, rather, it is the assurance that even in the midst of trials, God is working on our behalf. It allows us to endure hardship with a sense of purpose, knowing that what we are going through is not in vain, but is refining us, preparing us, and positioning us for greater things. One of the most profound aspects of faith is its ability to transform our perspective. When we choose to live by faith, we see the world differently. We no longer view problems as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for God's power to be displayed. We begin to see setbacks as setups for comebacks, understanding that God can use every situation to teach us, mold us, and strengthen us. Faith enables us to perceive challenges not as threats, but as part of the process that leads to growth and fulfillment. It is through faith that we develop the resilience to rise above difficult situations and keep our eyes fixed on the promise ahead. Additionally, faith is intimately connected with obedience. It is not enough to simply believe in God's ability to guide us. We must act on that belief. Faith without works is dead. It is through our actions that we demonstrate our trust in God. Each step we take in obedience to His will is a declaration of faith in His plan for our lives. This obedience, fueled by faith, creates a partnership between us and God, enabling His will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. Faith allows us to take risks, to step out of our comfort zones, and to pursue the path that God has laid before us, knowing that He will provide everything we need along the way. In essence, faith is the key that unlocks the door to the abundant life that God has for us. It is through faith that we tap into God's limitless power, His unfailing love, and His divine provision. Without faith, we are limited by our own understanding and abilities. But when we step out in faith, we step into a realm of infinite possibilities where anything is possible. Faith is the bridge between where we are and where God wants us to be. It is the fuel that propels us forward, the light that guides our way, and the force that connects us to the heart of God. And when we live by faith, we are assured that no matter the challenges, no matter the setbacks, the ultimate victory is ours. Because faith in God never fails. Divine order is the blueprint for life. A pattern that God has established for the universe and for every individual's journey. It is not just a system of rules or regulations, but a living, breathing force that brings harmony, peace, and fulfillment to all who align with it. When we understand divine order, we begin to see that everything in life is interconnected, and that there is a perfect alignment between what we are meant to do, the timing of our actions, and the outcomes we are meant to experience. Divine order transcends human understanding, for it is rooted in the wisdom and foresight of God. It is His design for the world and for each person's life. And when we submit ourselves to this order, we experience the fullness of life that He intends for us. God has already established the right order for every area of our existence. From the natural world, where the sun rises and sets with divine precision, to the very blueprint of our lives, where our purpose and destiny have already been set in motion, divine order governs it all. It means that there is a perfect time for everything. A moment in which every event, action, and decision aligns to bring about a specific outcome. Divine order teaches us that life is not random, nor are our steps by chance. Every experience, every relationship, and every opportunity is part of a larger, divinely orchestrated plan that works together for good, even when we cannot see it in the moment. When we embrace divine order, we are acknowledging that God's timing is always perfect. We often want things to happen on our timeline fast, immediate, and according to our desires. However, divine order reminds us that God's timing is never wrong. He knows exactly when we are ready for a breakthrough, when we are prepared to receive a blessing, and when we need to face a challenge in order to grow. By understanding that God is orchestrating the events of our lives, we can release the anxiety and impatience that come from trying to control everything. Divine order gives us the peace to trust that the right things will happen at the right time, according to God's plan. Moreover, divine order brings structure to our lives. It provides the boundaries and guidelines necessary for us to live effectively and purposefully. Without divine order, life can become chaotic, full of confusion and directionless striving. But when we follow the divine order that God has established, we find clarity in our purpose, peace in our decisions, and efficiency in our actions. We are able to prioritize what matters most and let go of distractions that may pull us off course. Divine order shows us how to manage our time, relationships, and resources in alignment with God's will, ensuring that everything we do is aligned with His greater purpose. Living in divine order also means submitting to God's authority and accepting His sovereignty over every part of our lives. This requires humility and a willingness to trust that His plan is better than our own. When we accept divine order, we are acknowledging that our understanding is limited and that God knows what is best for us, even when we don't fully understand the journey. This submission is not a form of weakness, but a sign of strength. It is a declaration of trust that God knows the way and that He will lead us to the right destination. In divine order, we do not have to strive or manipulate circumstances to get what we want. We simply need to trust and obey, knowing that God will direct our steps. Divine order also brings balance to our lives. It helps us to recognize the importance of each area of life, our personal growth, our relationships, our career, our health, and ensures that none of these areas is neglected or out of balance. God's order brings harmony between the various parts of our lives, ensuring that they all work together for our benefit. When we live in divine order, we no longer have to live in extremes or allow one area of our life to dominate at the expense of others. Instead, we find peace in knowing that each aspect of our life has its proper place and time. When we align ourselves with divine order, we are not just fulfilling our own purpose, but we are also part of a greater global plan that God is working out in the world. Divine order is not limited to the individual, it extends to the nations, to communities, and to the entire universe. When we follow God's plan for our lives, we contribute to the unfolding of His greater purpose on the earth. Our lives become part of a bigger story, one that is being written by God Himself, where every act of obedience, every step taken in faith, plays a vital role in the realization of His will. Divine order is the foundation on which a fulfilling and purposeful life is built. It is the recognition that life is not random, but intricately designed by a loving Creator who has a plan for each of us. When we align ourselves with divine order, we experience peace, clarity, and purpose. We learn to trust God's timing and guidance, and we find that our lives move in harmony with the greater plan He has set before us. Divine order brings structure to chaos, balance to imbalance, and certainty to uncertainty, allowing us to live in alignment with the Creator and His divine will. Obedience is not simply a matter of following rules or conforming to external expectations. It is a deep, intentional alignment of our will with the will of God. It is an essential component of living a life that is purposeful and fulfilling, for it is through obedience that we experience the fullness of God's blessings, protection, and guidance. When we obey God's instructions, we are not just acting out of duty, but we are actively participating in His divine plan for our lives. Obedience is the key that unlocks the door to the abundant life that God has designed for us. And without it, we are disconnected from the flow of His blessings and purpose. At the core of obedience is trust. It requires us to believe that God's ways are higher than our own, that His plans are always for our good, even when we do not fully understand them. This trust may be challenging at times, especially when the path ahead is unclear or when God's instructions conflict with our own desires or limited understanding. But it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty that obedience becomes most crucial. When we choose to obey, despite our doubts or fears, we demonstrate our faith in God's sovereignty and His perfect wisdom. Obedience, therefore, is an act of surrender, surrendering our own will in favor of His, trusting that He knows what is best for us. Through obedience, we align ourselves with God's divine order. Life, as designed by God, has a natural rhythm and flow, and obedience ensures that we stay in tune with that rhythm. When we act in accordance with His will, we step into the divine flow that He has already established, and our actions align with His purpose. This alignment allows us to experience peace and joy because we are no longer fighting against the current of life, but instead flowing with it. We are able to fulfill our purpose because we are walking in the footsteps that God has already laid out for us. Obedience also keeps us in a place of protection. When we obey God's commands, we safeguard ourselves from the dangers that lie outside His will. God's instructions are not arbitrary, they are for our benefit. Every command He gives us is designed to protect us, guide us, and lead us toward a life of fulfillment. Disobedience, on the other hand, leads us down paths that can result in unnecessary pain, confusion, or regret. Just as a child is safer when they listen to their parents' guidance, we are safer when we heed the instructions of our Heavenly Father. Obedience ensures that we remain within His protection, avoiding the pitfalls that come from acting independently or in opposition to His will. The necessity of obedience is also revealed in its ability to bring about transformation in our character. When we obey, we grow in virtue and maturity. Obedience teaches us patience, humility, and discipline. It stretches us to trust beyond what we can see and rely on God's faithfulness rather than our own understanding. As we submit to God's will, we begin to reflect His nature more clearly in our lives. Our obedience shapes us into the individuals God has created us to be, preparing us to handle greater responsibilities, to serve others more effectively, and to step into the next season of His plan for our lives. Obedience also positions us to receive God's blessings. God promises that when we obey, we open ourselves to a life of favor and provision. The Bible is full of examples of God rewarding obedience with abundance, whether it be in the form of peace, prosperity, or opportunities to be a blessing to others. When we choose obedience, we align ourselves with God's covenant promises. Just as a child's obedience to their parents results in blessings and good things, so too does our obedience to God bring us into the fullness of His promises. Obedience is not always easy, and it often requires sacrifice. The world around us is filled with voices that encourage us to follow our own desires, to choose comfort over sacrifice, and to prioritize temporary pleasures over lasting fulfillment. But the truth is that the path of obedience is the path of ultimate joy. Although it may require laying down our own desires, it leads us to a life of greater peace, satisfaction, and fulfillment. By choosing obedience, we choose God's best for us, even when that path seems difficult or counter to our natural inclinations. Furthermore, obedience is not a one-time decision, it is a continuous choice. Every day we are faced with decisions, small and large, that call us to obey God's will. Each choice builds upon the other, and our lives are shaped by the cumulative effect of our obedience. Over time, as we choose to walk in obedience, we find that our relationship with God deepens, our understanding of His ways becomes clearer, and our ability to discern His voice increases. Obedience becomes a way of life, not just a one-time act, and it leads us into deeper communion with God. In conclusion, obedience is not just an act of compliance, it is the key to living a life of purpose, protection, and fulfillment. It is through obedience that we align ourselves with God's will, trust in His perfect plan, and step into the blessings He has prepared for us. While obedience may require sacrifice and faith, it is ultimately the path that leads to the life we were created to live. Through obedience, we grow in character, experience divine protection, and find joy in knowing that we are walking in the ways of the one who knows us best and loves us most. Obedience is not just a duty, it is the pathway to a life of divine destiny. Starting with God's blessing creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond the immediate impact of the action itself. The blessing of God carries with it a divine influence that touches not only the individual who receives it, but also those around them, their community, and even the world at large. When we begin any endeavor or step in life with God's blessing, we are not only setting ourselves up for success, but we are also inviting divine favor into every area of our lives. This favor has the power to transform, uplift, and impact others in ways we cannot always predict or control, creating a wave of positive change that spreads outward. The initial impact of God's blessing is often experienced personally. When we start our journey with God's blessing, we are infused with the strength, wisdom, and clarity needed to move forward. It removes the uncertainty and fear that can often accompany new ventures or transitions in life. With God's blessing, we are empowered to pursue our goals with confidence, knowing that He is guiding us and providing the resources we need. This deep assurance in His provision allows us to move with purpose without being hindered by doubts or distractions. It makes our efforts fruitful and meaningful, ensuring that we are walking in the divine purpose that He has laid out for us. As we walk in God's blessing, the ripple effect begins to touch the lives of those closest to us. Our family, friends, and colleagues are impacted by the transformation they see in us. God's blessing often brings peace, joy, and a sense of fulfillment that naturally draws others in. They may witness our growth, success, or resilience in the face of challenges, and this can inspire them to seek God's blessing in their own lives. When God blesses us, He does not do so in isolation. His blessing is meant to overflow, impacting the people around us. Our positive attitude, sense of purpose, and the favor we experience become a testimony to others of God's goodness, prompting them to reflect on their own relationship with Him. Furthermore, the ripple effect extends to our communities and beyond. When we begin with God's blessing, we not only benefit personally, but are also positioned to be a blessing to others. The resources, opportunities, and wisdom we receive through God's blessing enable us to contribute to the needs of others. We are called to be stewards of the blessings we receive, and as we do so, we become channels through which God's goodness flows into the lives of those around us. Whether through acts of service, kindness, or generosity, we can use the blessings in our lives to impact our community in meaningful ways. God's blessing empowers us to make a difference, whether that is in our neighborhoods, workplaces, or social circles. The more we align with His will, the more we reflect His love and care for others, creating a culture of blessing wherever we go. On a larger scale, the ripple effect of starting with God's blessing can have a global impact. As individuals and communities who walk in the blessing of God, we can influence entire nations. Think about how movements of faith, justice, and compassion throughout history have been driven by people who sought God's blessing and then shared it with others. From charitable acts to movements of social change, God's blessing equips us to take on challenges that require more than human effort alone. It enables us to work towards solutions that bring about transformation on a global scale. Whether we are engaging in missions work, advocating for the marginalized, or working for peace, God's blessing provides the foundation for meaningful, lasting change. When God's people walk in His blessing, the ripple effect can reach across continents, spreading His message of love, hope, and redemption to a broken world. Starting with God's blessing also creates a cycle of continual growth. As we receive His blessings and use them for His glory, we create space for even more blessings to flow into our lives. God's blessings are not meant to be hoarded or kept to ourselves. They are meant to multiply. The more we step out in faith, trusting God and following His leading, the more His favor can be poured into us. This creates a cycle where each act of obedience, each step taken with His blessing, brings forth greater opportunities for growth and expansion. The ripple effect becomes a dynamic force that never stops, constantly expanding in new directions, touching new lives, and bringing more people into the fold of God's love. This cycle of growth and multiplication is not just about material success or worldly achievements. It is about spiritual growth and alignment with God's will. When we begin with God's blessing, we open ourselves up to His transformational power. His blessings refine our character, deepen our faith, and shape us into the people He has called us to be. As we continue to walk in His blessing, we become more like Him, reflecting His love, mercy, and grace to those around us. The ripple effect becomes one of spiritual transformation that spreads from one heart to another, leading people into deeper relationships with God and with each other. In conclusion, starting with God's blessing is not just a personal advantage, it is a divine opportunity to impact the world. It creates a ripple effect that begins with us but extends far beyond us, touching our families, communities, and even nations. As we walk in God's favor and purpose, we become instruments of His love, kindness, and justice. The blessings we receive are not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others. When we begin with God's blessing, we align ourselves with His perfect will and become part of a larger, divine plan that has the power to transform lives, communities, and the world. The ripple effect of God's blessing is far-reaching, and its impact is eternal.